The decade is ending and there were some great movies through the course of it. This is of course non-political, but you know what, Brett Ehrlich? We like movies. You've done various pop culture related and movie related jobs and we've watched a lot of them. There were some great ones. So I thought, why don't we put together a list of the top 10 movies of the decade?
Love it, that's a great idea.
I think it is a great idea. And so I'm very excited to start talking about this for the first time.
Yes.
And so we each have 5. Our number 5s down to our number 1s. You're gonna be going first for each number, and we're gonna see if there's some overlap. There were a lot of movies, so it seems kind of unlikely. But why don't you get us started?
All right, so my first film, and I just want to say first of all, and I'm sure I speak for John too, this is a difficult thing to do.
It's impossible.
It's not impossible.
No, it's impossible. I don't have any, I didn't select any.
You did it.
I did.
You did submit 5, I submitted 5. It's very difficult to make decisions like this through hundreds of movies that came out, if not thousands of movies that came out over the course of 10 years. So as you'll see, I made some decisions. Some of these are more symbolic than anything, but others are, so go with me on it.
And or one movie might represent more than just that movie.
And this will make you mad.
Yes. It will.
This will make you so mad, so just embrace it. I totally understand your feelings, but as you'll see when I'm done explaining, you're wrong.
Okay.
In terms of your opinion. So number 5, Bridesmaids. Bridesmaids is a film that came out in 2011, and before this, the previous decade was dominated by raunchy, toxic masculinity comedies.
It was.
But just like a bunch of things like that, The Hangover and Wedding Crashers, 40-Year-Old Virgin, where like it was all about the dudes. Every film failed the Bechdel test, which is, are the women just there to serve the men? Do they ever have conversations between themselves that aren't about the boys? And Bridesmaids tore down a lot of those norms, made it okay, and also paved the way for, it shows you how good the original movie is in terms of how many copycats came after. We're talking about The Heat and Ghostbusters reboot with ladies. All of that was made possible really in Hollywood, and this is how Hollywood works with Bridesmaids.
Yeah, and there's that upcoming movie with Selma Hayek.
Yeah,
it seems sort of, and
it's
now
really
you just
funny.
expect that there will be a lot of movies like that.
A lot of great individual performances, a lot of memorable set piece comedy interactions.
Really, really disgusting.
Doo-doo in a street in a dress. Spoiler alert. There you go.
Okay, my number 5 is a representative of a genre that I don't generally consume too much of, but it is Get Out. I don't watch a lot of horror movies, but I think and I hope that horror movies going forward, many of them will be influenced by Get Out, because Get Out was very scary at times, both shocking but also like deeply unsettling, which I find to be a more satisfying form of horror. At the same time, whenever it wanted to be, it could be as funny as any comedy. And it didn't undercut the horror at all when it wanted to be funny. And at the same time, while doing both of those things, which most movies, including horror movies, can't generally do, it also was deeply socially relevant. And it seems like it's already starting to influence movies. And so I want horror to move in that direction.
Fair enough, great idea. Let's see if it comes up later in my list. The Marvel movie decade is number 4 for me. One of the great aspects of this collage of interwoven plot lines is that they were able to write a bunch of films that really function as one film. Yes, if I was to choose one, it would probably be Thor Ragnarok, because it managed to,
great movie.
to do that and be a buddy comedy road movie. That was hilarious. They brought in Taika Waititi to be involved in it, which is from the What We Do in the Shadows group and all that. And it was fantastic. I loved it, and that was so hard to do, especially in relation to the previous decade when we were in an era, and this did bleed over into then, but right before the Marvel movie decade started, they had things like Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, where they were just, I was on phone calls in a talent agency where I heard people just be like, we know we need a comic book movie. I don't care who it is or how we do it. They do well. And you had films like Green Lantern, and that was the last gasp, and Green Hornet too. I like that a little more.
I didn't see that one.
But Green Lantern specifically, they ruined having Ryan Reynolds, and these Marvel movies changed the reality for that genre and gave rise to a very good movie that's not on my list, but is technically in the Marvel universe, but not this Marvel universe, Deadpool. But
exactly, which proves he could do it.
These films really revitalized that genre and brought it to a whole generation.
Exactly, and I did particularly like Ragnarok. I don't know if it's my favorite one, obviously, but yeah, I didn't like Thor 1 very much, and I thought Thor 2 might be the worst of the Marvel movies, but Thor Ragnarok was amazing.
Guardians right up there too.
Guardians very good too. Yeah. Okay, my number 4 is no pick is gonna get attacked as much as this.
Can't wait for this.
It's Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I know that Star Wars fans hate Last Jedi. I don't get it. I'm not even saying that it doesn't have issues, but there are sections of The Last Jedi that are everything I want in a movie, and in particular, everything I want in a Star Wars movie. The first bit where they're doing their mission, they're assaulting the Dreadnought, that could be an awesome sci-fi short by itself. They fit so much story in just a few minutes. It is so emotional. I tear up. I just watched it yesterday. I teared up again. I've seen it like 10 times. Some of the fights near the end and like what goes on in the Dreadnought, it's everything I want in a big space opera movie. It does it so well. It is perfect at pulling those emotional strings. I understand that the plot has some issues. I would argue many big budget action movies and sci-fi movies have a few issues if you dig enough. But like this is what I wanted. I liked all the other ones for the most part. I thought the Rogue One was great. I thought The Force Awakens was great, but this was just, it gave me those Star Wars moments.
Well, what you kind of underscore my argument for my number 3, which is also a Star Wars film, and it is Rogue One. Number 3 is Rogue One, and I don't know if anyone can see this, but like for the record, there's a lot of fist bumping coming from the control room because it doesn't have some weird casino scene where I don't know why I see, what's his name, Mr. Aniston,
Justin Theroux.
Justin Trudeau. I don't know why I see him for a second. They never really talk about it. It is so strange. Why don't we just? It is unforgivable.
Not every plan comes together.
Prohibitive. I know, but like no.
Rogue One's very good. Let's talk about how good Rogue One is.
Rogue One is great because this is why it's above Marvel. It is also a big budget franchise film. But what Rogue One does, that is one of the central criticisms, not to the quality, but definitely to like the tropes of Avengers style movies, is that in all those movies, you're like, the drama's cool, it's awesome, but I know the good guys are gonna win and I know they're gonna survive. And even if they die, I know they're gonna come back. Rogue One was kind of off to here, bridging 2 different parts of the cinematic universe of Star Wars, and it had that drama. These people, many Jedins will die for this information. We don't know which Jedins, we don't know when Jedins, but many Jedins died, and it is very intense.
What are the Jedins?
That's many Jedins died, right?
Bothans.
Bothans, really?
Yeah, they're Bothans. You want to
question
this?
Many Bothans died.
You think I haven't read books that are about Bothans?
Damn it.
Anyway.
I thought it was many. Anyways,
no,
either way,
Bothans,
so you win. So John wins this round.
But you have a
but
good
not
pick,
in terms
so
of
you
quality
win.
of movie, but Rogue One is best because of the drama that's able to make its way, an uncertainty of hero fate that is able to make it into a film like this in this category. And it's so damn good.
I agree. And it's also possible that it laid the groundwork for movies that, like you can have a Star Wars movie that's not about the Jedi. We have The Mandalorian now. Would we have had The Mandalorian without Rogue One? I don't know.
I can't hear any point you're making because I'm so mad at myself for the Jedins thing if I'm wrong.
It's fine. There are Jedi, so you have that going for you. My number 3 is Ex Machina. I think that Ex Machina is just so good. It has almost no one in it. There's almost no set, and yet so much happens in it. It is just such a perfect sci-fi movie. Amazing concept. Great performances. It says something about humanity. It says something about the future. Also made Alicia Vikander a star, which I'm very grateful for, and made me love Oscar Isaac as well. And by the way, it shows what do you get out of a movie being sci-fi? You could have things like they have in there that they're just so stimulating. They make you think, and man, that ending. If you haven't seen Ex Machina, it has one of the best endings of any movie in the past decade.
Yeah, that was very close to being on my list. It was an honorable mention. I would like to say that I've seen it multiple times, and it is just a little play.
It's a play.
Great short story or play. Okay, my number 2, Get Out.
It made it on, okay.
Get Out for me, specifically this poster. Get Out for all the reasons that John gave, but I won't trivialize it by putting it down on 2 like John did, on 5 like John did. Also, I still feel bad about the Bothans thing, so just
very good movie. By the way, I hadn't seen that poster before. I love that poster. Yeah.
Your turn.
Great movie. My number 2, sort of similar if we're one-upping each other, is Avengers Endgame. And this kind of is a cop-out. It stands in for I have really enjoyed the Marvel movies, but this one in particular, like if you want to give credit to what Marvel did with all these movies, something that seemed impossible, and it turns out might kind of be, because other people are trying to do this and they're not making it work, this cinematic interlinked universe. What Avengers Endgame represents is collective storytelling across many different people over the course of a decade. And what does that give you? Well, it gives you that final battle scene, which is, again, in the same way that Star Wars Last Jedi gives me everything I want in a Star Wars movie, that last fight is everything I want in a superhero movie. And not because it's people hitting each other. Tons of movies, even good movies, like I love Wonder Woman, that last fight is terrible because there's nothing to it. There's no consequences, there's no emotion, there's no drama.
I'm Ares.
Exactly. Every bit of that last fight in Avengers Endgame is infused throughout with drama and consequences. Not just because they're good storytellers, but because of everything that's come before. You could watch that 10 times and be looking at things in the background, and there's just so much that's there. I saw it multiple times in theaters. I just love that they made it happen. And when, spoiler alert, when those portals start opening, I was just done, devastated. I mean, obviously I like genre movies. That's my list is full of that stuff, but it was so expertly well done. Oh, I'm gonna watch it again after doing this list. Okay, so Avengers, my number 2.
My number 1, you're gonna hate this.
What is it?
You're gonna hate it, but I will defend it. The Social Network. There it is, I got a Bart clap. All right, so here's why The Social Network is the number 1 movie. It says Brett is right as a lower third, God bless.
What the?
So
Who made that?
This is Sorkin and what's his name? The director. Anyways,
I don't know.
This is Sorkin and the director who Fincher. I was gonna say Mamet, but that's because John hates when I say that. Mamet, Zosh. This is Fincher, a great director, great writer in certain circumstances, doing something that really defines the decade. And right now, as we go through and experience every testimony given by Mark Zuckerberg, what do we all draw on? We draw on what we learned from The Social Network.
That's true.
And we get that history of where it came from, the people behind it, what their thought processes were. Does it really match up? I don't know. But that's the thing, none of us know, but this is what really defined the decade, and I want to watch it again, which is one of those tests. I want to go back and see. It's super well acted, well done, and it really does define the last 10 years, what happened. And I'm so glad that a film was able to really capture something that huge for the entire planet in the way that The Social Network did.
And pretty early on too, like I didn't even consider it for my list, but when I saw it back when it was in theaters, I really did like it. And when I think about what I thought when I thought of Facebook back then versus now, like we have come a long way. And I do think that even now, what I think about Facebook is still influenced by The Social Network.
Thank you, John.
So it wouldn't be on my list, but it's a good number 1. My number 1, I'm actually surprised isn't on your list, but now I feel kind of weird. But I'm still gonna say it.
I can't wait for this.
Obviously there's a theme to my list, but my number 1 is, do you want me to guess?
I don't know.
It's impossible. You
like
couldn't.
Tomb Raider 2.
Okay, it hasn't come out yet, but I'm gonna love it. I like Tomb Raider, but it's not gonna be on the list. My number 1 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh my God, we saw this together twice, I think.
I think we did. I saw it 3 times, I think. This is the only movie I've ever seen with Jank and Ben, by the way.
I didn't know they were in it.
It's not that I necessarily think that this movie is cooler than some of the other ones on my list. But I like it for many of the same reasons. And the reason why it's number 1 is it didn't, I know there are other Mad Max movies, but it didn't have a decade coming up to it. It didn't have other Star Wars movies right before. It had to, for many people, make this world and these characters right now it does it instantly. Like as soon as you start this movie, you know what this world is, and every detail that's added onto it is just so fascinating and expertly crafted. How this movie is just a chase scene. How could it be as good as it is? But it's great. It doesn't. Most of the movie doesn't even need dialogue. There's very little dialogue in this. It's visually more interesting than any special effects laden movie, even though most of this is practical effects. Watch the documentaries about it. It is amazing how they put this together. Watch documentaries about how they storyboarded this, how they sold this, how they tried to get this made for a couple of decades. It is just such, it is exactly what they wanted it to be, I think. Even more so than the other movies.
That's a very John answer. It's exactly what they wanted it to be.
And what they wanted it to be was good.
Yeah, but like they wanted it to be that. They put in the work. They could have taken shortcuts. They decided not to take shortcuts.
Or CGI.
Yeah, that's what I mean by shortcuts. Yeah. And it wouldn't have been what they wanted. And they did the work necessary to make it what they wanted. And they succeeded. And there's a lot of people who take shortcuts and do succeed, and that's frustrating. This one didn't take the shortcuts, and it did succeed. So I like your list. I think to put it number one is insane, but
you could flip around a few, but I really do think as an individual product, I think it's pretty much perfect. I don't see what you'd possibly change about it.
I just wish it was cinema.
Okay, so really fast, just any quick shout outs to honorable mentions that you consider? I mean, 5 is a very small amount of movies. Like, and we couldn't do 10 each.
Thinking about like Birdman.
Birdman's a very good movie.
Uncle Drew, I don't know if you saw that. Uncle Drew is Kyrie Irving. Boss Baby, like these kinds of ones, the Overboard remake, like the top heavy hitters.
Okay.
That was just like, one time we did a list of like the best, the hottest characters, and then my joke version was all gonna be Matt Damon characters. And my joke version was Uncle Drew, Overboard, Boss Baby, and Bird Box.
And Bird Box is fine. So a couple that I was definitely considering. I mean, there are other movies in some of these. Like I really love Force Awakens. I thought that Deadpool was great. Guardians of the Galaxy was great. The first Iron Man, we might not have this entire thing if it wasn't for the first Iron Man. So very good. But also movies like Inside Out and Coco are both animated movies that I wish that I could have fit on the list because they're both amazing. There are probably some movies that are not about superheroes and wizards and stuff, but it's difficult for me to think of them when thinking of this list. But anyway, I mean, there have been a ton of good movies. These are just a few. I would love to know what you all think, so feel free to tweet at Brett and I, letting us know what belongs on your list, okay? For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.